Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. There is no need to watch because this is an audio course. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Could we paint a picture of why we're here? How much of a difference does it make? Having a well-organized business? Some may argue, are we merely shuffled papers? As well as deadlines and appointments on the calendar from one location to another? Can you prove your point? What are the advantages of putting out this effort? That's an excellent question. Why bother getting organized, after all? You organize yourself in order to reach a larger purpose. Never get organized for the sake of getting organized. Never get organized solely for the sake of making things appear nice. To make yourself look good in the eyes of others. Its organizational systems are actually automobiles. To help you achieve your larger objectives as a result, you should avoid organizing anything. Without explaining why people do not devote so much time or money to create a system that will help them live better lives, unless they're attempting to accomplish something. Quite frequently, people want to be able to plan their time. Adjust their schedules in order to make room in order to spend more time with their families, as well as some quality time for themselves. This is a relatively common objective. You could be more organized if you were more organized. If you had a more ordered schedule. If you had a more orderly space. You'd be able to devote more time to being present. With your family, your friends, and your children, with your partner, as well as with yourself. That is most likely one of the most typical motives. Another in our professional lives. I'd like to become more organized. I need to learn to manage my time so that I may reach my full potential. If you're suffering from procrastination, or you're always late and feel terrible about it, so you're not really sure what you're doing, it implies that you don't actually show up and put in a lot of effort during meetings or with customers. However, you pull back because you believe you are inept. Or you feel humiliated, you're feeling a little behind the eight ball, don't you? Then you're squandering chances. As a result, it's typically to make the most of every opportunity. At the workplace, whether you work for yourself or for someone else, or you're employed by a small business or a nonprofit, government, or large corporation. It's all about making the most of your opportunities. So, if you've worked in the industry for more than 30 years, I'm a professional organizer, and I'm here to help you. For people who have a lot of stuff in their lives, do you have any insider tips or tricks that you utilize on a regular basis? And that the rest of us, ordinary folks, don't know what's going on? Should be aware of? Yes, I believe that when it comes to organization, every physical organizing structure is modeled by myself. Based on a kindergarten classroom model every single time. I'm serious. Yep. So you have a mental image of a kindergarten classroom. It is the ideal organizational model. Consider the space. This is a room that can hold up to 25 5-year-olds. That during the first 2 weeks of classes, at the ring of a bell, no matter how cluttered that room becomes, isn't it true that 5-year-olds put everything back where it belongs? Yeah. So, how is that room set up? It is divided into different activity zones. There's a reading nook too. A dressing up section, a construction blocks area, and so on. Isn't this a music zone? And everything is kept in its own perspective. So, if you're in the mood for some music, everything about music can be found there. On the other side of the room, there is nothing. If you're into arts and crafts, this is the place to be. And you're creating a work of art. And you'd like to add glitter and glue to the mix, it's right in the arts and crafts section. Even if the reading corner has an empty shelf, no instructor would ever assign arts and crafts to a student. In the zone of reading, as a result, it's keeping stuff according to their points of view. How it relates to a certain activity after that, everything is put into a container. Isn't that ideal for what you're storing? So, in the same way that puzzles are stored in those small slotted trays, they're also really well organized. The building blocks section is where you'll find everything you need to get started. The columns have their own cubby. One for the rectangles, and another for the squares, another for the arches, and yet another for the pillars. And everything is a home to you. That's a wonderful match for what you're storing. And the entire area transforms into a visual menu of everything that matters to the public who make advantage of that area. As an example, a kindergartner can simply walk in and look around and declare, "What are your options?" "Oh, I'll go over and construct something." And dash over to that location. And that is exactly how our homes and offices are set up. And our file methods, whether digital or paper-based, should be a reflection of who we are and what we aim to achieve, as well as where we're heading. They should be representative of our actions and reenact our lives for us. It's a really visible, forceful, and successful method of putting everything together. Let's speak about how you've developed a unique strategy. I believe it's referred to as the inside-out method or approach, or taste or fashion. So, could you please walk us through it? What is it, and how do we go about doing it? So, organizing from the inside out is a good idea. It's all about creating systems that mirror your values, your distinct personality, style, and objectives such that it looks natural and is simple to maintain. We also try to arrange from the outside in far too often. What does that appear to be? You simply ask someone else, for example, "What app do you use for your to-do list or your schedule?" How many to-dos do you put on your list, or how many to-dos do you put on your list? For the time being, how do you organize your closet, or how do you organize your drawers? And where do we get our containers from? We buy tools, and we think those tools are useful. They do not intend to organize us. You must create your system in the manner in which you think and your natural routines, so you don't have to make any adjustments. It not only enhances who you are to be organized, but it also enhances who you are to be organized. This allows you to reach your best potential. Isn't it true that it works and lasts? That, on the other hand, sounds fantastic. You're right. So, could you give us an example of, hey, considering your situation, style, and attitude, you could prefer to go with A instead of B? So, for one thing, people ask, where do I keep track? It's one of the universal questions on my to-do list. Because there are so many possibilities in today's period, our to-do lists are endless, and they come at us from all sides. People are divided into two groups, those who prefer digital or those who prefer paper. That's the first and most important cut. As a result, I frequently ask them if they are to figure out if you're a visual or tactile person, or are you more of a digital linear type? And a person who is visually and tactilely oriented will recall where they scribbled anything on a page. "Oh, that was 3 paragraphs ago," they say, in green ink in the upper right corner. They act as though they have a visual and tactile memory of where information can be found, and if you can relate to that, you're probably the best candidate on a to-do list on paper. As a result of the act of putting pen to paper, engraves it in your mind, enables you to process identical tasks in groups. It also helps you process what you're doing by just putting it down. It's not sticky if you try to do it digitally. So that's one cut, and if it's paper, it's another. Then all you have to do is sort through the many options. There are a variety of goods available. This is only one example. Okay, that's intriguing and descriptive enough. Yes, that's me, I believe some individuals will say things that will strike a chord with you right away. So, yes, that's me. What would be the equivalent for people living in the digital linear era? Yes, I believe that people who are type of digital linear thinkers have the ability to. They have a tendency to think in a chronological order. They get to the point where you could toss out a date, like, they'll be there on September 13th, that was a Thursday this year, by the way. It was between my sister's birthday and, well, you know what I'm talking about. Dula, when I got the proposal, they're fantastic for locating things like interfaces. Instead of thinking into a keyboard, alternatively, you can enter directly into a type pad. They can also locate items They can create a database or a contact manager, for example. They think in this manner, in a digital manner. They rely significantly on search engines and are never scared to use them. They don't have to worry about losing anything because all they have to do is they're like, I have a trigger word, and they're like, I have a trigger word. Oh, sure, I'd be able to locate that. As a result, they're at ease and think quickly. In such a tangle of intertwined words and associations, that sort of thing, they are extremely quick to adapt to new technology. They are aware of the situation. They enjoy it because they're so good at it. They prefer to travel light. They don't seem to be attached to paper in any way. They say things like, I can locate that in the cloud, and I can find that in the cloud. They can get that information from any place. They interact with it. Isn't it not overwhelming for them? They don't get glazed over while they're in front of a screen. They understand how to use it as a tool. You stated that there are 3 steps: to organize anything, to analyze, to evaluate, the attack, and the strategize. So, could you guide us through how we might go about approaching this? Something in time management or task management for professionals. So, I was just coaching someone the other day who was a stressed out executive, a highly accomplished individual in a high ranking position in a large mid-sized corporation. He's well known, and he works about 15 hours a day. 7 days a week, 7 days a week, 7 days a week, 7. He's taking care of everything. However, the price is exorbitant. He's worn out, he can't get to the important stuff, he's only reacting to things. And he isn't really there, he's too busy to care for his family or himself, and he's already stretched too thin. It's like it's catching up with him. As a result, he says, what am I supposed to do now? As a result, I can't just walk in and say, let's start with a to-do list, shall we? Isn't that an approach from the outside in? That's a preemptive strike. Later, you can ask questions. So, the first step is to assess and strategize an attack. It's a 3-part procedure. To figuring out what method will work best for that individual. To analyze something, you must first ask a series of questions. To pinpoint exactly what needs to be fixed, what works, and what doesn't. As a result, I usually ask questions such as, right, tell me what's working. What is currently operating in your system? What are the tasks that are always completed? In his situation, everything was being completed. That was effective. The number of hours was what wasn't working. That it was consuming. As a result, the gap begins to close. On the issue that has to be resolved, and what exactly is it? Between which you're attempting to juggle your time? That is an element of the investigation. What do you need to schedule time for? To be completely balanced? And when it comes to our time, we must all make that decision. What am I actually attempting to strike a balance between? What are the essentials? Do you like the large buckets? It could be something like this: you produce a podcast in your field. It's for the purpose of gathering information on potential visitors. There's research, there's writing, and then there's finishing. Then there's production, and then there's stuff like that. Administrative follow-up is required. That may be compared to the 4 buckets. As a result, we all have it. Because evaluating entails truly comprehending what it is that I need to strike a balance between. Then there's the question of where my time is now going. And I do it all the time, encouraging individuals like, you must consider your time as it reminds me of a closet. It's a finite amount of time that can only accommodate so much. So, how much time do we have available? Do you put in 10 hours a day? Is it possible to sleep for 8 hours a day? Do you work for 12 hours a day? What is the size of your work container? Then there's the matter of fitting everything inside. And how are you putting it together right now? In what order do you go about doing things? How do you deal with the mornings? When do you take care of your paperwork? Is there any kind of order, or is each day different? Is that all there is to it? What are our current circumstances? Then there's strategy. What are we attempting to accomplish? So, how would you plan your week? If it was in that shape, size, and container, and it was big enough for what you needed to do? We really make a graph. We come up with a solution. Here's how you should plan your day. Then there's the question of how do we acquire you? How do you get from where you are to your ideal schedule? That's all there is to time management. What do you include in your daily routine? What do you shave off your to-do list? What tasks in your schedule could be completed more quickly? Then you simply tool it. Until you find out where the person is? I've arrived at my optimum state. It's highly specific as well as practical and doable. Well, I'd suggest, especially for the sake of the listeners. There are actually two questions here. If you want to gain a better handle on your time, and you think to yourself, what am I squandering my time on? And what am I missing out on by not devoting enough attention to? After that, you go about making changes. To put the items in the proper order, so, if I'm wasting too much time on email, I'll let you know. On writing, administrivia, and whatever else comes to mind, what am I squandering my time on? Then you take a look at it and say, so, how can I get rid of that? How can I make something more efficient? I've got a thing called the 4DS, and it's a thing I've had for a which is to say, what can I get rid of? Is it possible for me to erase it? Is there any way I can avoid having to do this? It's almost as if there isn't enough value for the time spent. Is it possible to postpone it? Which is at this month's, quarter's, and year's end. This time of year in the business, I'm going to put this off because we're currently in I don't know. We're nearing the end of the fiscal year. As a result, I won't be able to complete that strategic marketing plan. That's a delay, whatever it is. Is it possible to make it smaller? Is there a way to make it shorter, faster, and easier? Is there a more efficient method to accomplish this? Isn't it the case most of the time? All we have to do now is figure out how to be more efficient, as well as operationalize a recurring activity, so that it takes a fourth of the time that it already does since it is more cost-effective. Is it possible for me to delegate it? Is it okay if I delegate this task to someone else? Because it isn't the highest and best use of my time any longer. However, it is still critical to the company's success. For the sake of the business, and for the sake of living. And how about the inverse? For when you don't have enough time to devote to something? Yeah. So you've figured out what I'm not devoting enough time to? And, like with the basic universal frequently asked questions, I don't devote enough attention to strategic planning. Or the artistic endeavor, our workweek includes inventive work. Or persons in development, isn't it? As an example, I haven't given any thought to my team. And how to improve them. That's logical. These are important but not urgent matters. It's as though something has to happen, but it's not on fire. Right. But if you don't make time for them, they'll be forgotten. You continue to run in a hamster wheel of putting out fires. Because you haven't put any effort towards developing your team. You haven't looked down the road to see what's coming up. Putting things in place to prevent these fires. As a result, it's really important. It's also where we make our one-of-a-kind contribution. We don't make a one-of-a-kind contribution, and we're continually reminded of it fighting flames and other tasks. It's in the broader picture. Every one of us brings something special to the table. And everyone knows that, whether they say it or not. It's like, whether it's in their heads or not, it's like, this is where the important job is done. This is where I can help to fix problems and contribute. However, I require some time to consider my options. That's a typical occurrence. There isn't enough time to do such tasks. So, where are you squandering your time? Then you simply ask yourself, the goal now is to make time for it. And you wonder to yourself, what would be the best time to work on this? Which I strongly advise you to consider on a daily basis. Not once a month, but on a daily basis, daily strategic planning, everyday time for reflection, time for research. Every day, it's time to be quiet. What is the time unit, and do I require an hour at a time? Is it necessary for me to work for 2 hours at a time? What is the time unit, and when is the best time? Is it possible for me to accomplish it at the end of the day? Then you go ahead and claim it. It's yours to claim. Isn't it what a lot of folks do first thing in the morning? That's when their mind is clearest and they can best defend themselves. They value it the most because they have the rest of the day on their hands. To catch up on any of the day's responsibilities, you take the first hour of your workday and block it off. Every day or for the first 90 minutes of each working day. Alternatively, if the first hour isn't working, perhaps it's between 12 and 2 a.m. every day. When people are given liberty to enjoy themselves, they could be having a business lunch. But keep in mind that they just have a 2-hour window with their time for deep thought, so you take control of that time and make it a daily ritual. Schedule an appointment in your calendar. Then you let the rest of the world operate around it. MMHHH, and there you have it. You've gotten rid of the thing that was taking up all of your time. You've also made room for the most crucial item. Right now, you're ignoring. And life moves at a breakneck pace. When it comes to contemplation, the time of day when things happen, you've taken the risk of writing an entire book titled Never Check Your Email First Thing in the Morning. Could you tell us why we shouldn't do that? When should we do it, and how soon should we do it? Email is a method of sending and receiving communications and solicitations, as well as requests, reminders, junk mail, and solicitations, as well as a variety of other things. Overall, however, it is a reactive gadget. Everyone has something when they wake up in the morning. They are very eager to finish that day, personally as well as professionally. Before you start doing what you know you want to accomplish, there are a few things you need to do first. You check email first as your proactive task or activity. You put off taking proactive measures. They'll probably never get around to it. Then it's out to the races for you. You're getting irritated because you're going down rabbit holes. You've been sucked in and can't get out. And I believe that if you put off checking your email, you will be better off. That receptive device by as early as the first hour of awake, all the way up to and including your first working hour. You also begin your day on a positive note. Completing the most difficult assignment before you put your shades on for the day, you'll be able to accomplish a lot more in less time. And when you first start out, you are in command of technology, not the other way around. And if you can start your day with technology under your control, that's even better. Any moment during the day you'll be able to put your smartphone away if you want to. However, if you are unable to do so within the first hour, there are no more hours in the day. You'll be able to set it down with ease. And I'd want to hear your thoughts on the matter. I bought it and attempt to put it into practice. Then there are instances when that really critical task I'm working on. To achieve that, I need to extract anything from the email. Then I see all the other stuff when I open it up. That's like, man, how am I going to do this? I've even tried taping a piece of paper to the wall to hide some sections of the screen. Laughter. So, what exactly do you do? Interviewee: I understand, it's quite difficult. So, I believe that if you gather all you require, you will be successful. By the previous day's end, then you'll be able to avoid the problem. At least 8 times out of 10, you'll be able to cut down on the number of times you have to go in. As a result of the fact that you pulled it the day before. You say, I'm going to work on that proposal, and you mean it. I'm going to start working on that document right now. I'm going to take a break from my studies. You bring it all together. So you're ready to go at the end of the day for the task you'll be doing in the morning. You don't just walk in and establish up shop. It had been set up the day before. That's one aspect. If you're the first to do it, necessitates your use of a computer to stay focused, you'll need a lot of discipline and tricks. It's possible that before you go in, you'll do something like this. On your cell phone, you set an alarm. Laughter. And tell me that all I have to do now is go in, find the email with the attachment, and save it to your computer. I then turned off my email. That's all there is to it. You already know where it'll be, you know what to look for, and how to search for it. That is a task that will take you 5 minutes to complete. You have a 5-minute alarm set. Before the alarm goes off, you go in and get the object. And then turn it off. Consider going to the supermarket, for example. How often do you go to the grocery without a shopping list? You walked in expecting to get 3 things, didn't you? You'd come out with 6 grocery bags. However, if you go in with a list and a short time restriction, you'll be more successful. It can assist you in staying focused. However, doing so necessitates a high level of awareness. That is exactly what we must do in our screen-dominated life. We must remain vigilant. That's quite useful. And I liked how you said pull it ahead of time. You may pull it off in a variety of ways. You have the option to print or save it. I'm considering just making it in Gmail. Or, to put it another way, a super query in terms of I'm solely interested in hearing from these 5 folks. Exactly. A study was conducted. The University of British Columbia is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Somewhere throughout the last 5 years, that looked into the effects of bulk email processing as opposed to continuously processing email, and it was a massive undertaking. This was a pretty well-run study. They discovered that they put 2 groups of people through their paces, each with its own set of questions. They had people check email all day for a week. On a regular basis, and then the following week they had them process their emails in batches. That is to say, set aside specific times. You're going to check your email, aren't you? Give it your complete focus for 20, 30, or 40 minutes. Whatever it takes to have it cleaned up, then turn it off and on again at the next predetermined time, which may be 2 hours from now. And they discovered a human. That when people processed email in batches, instead of being continuously processed, they processed the same number of emails in half the time. As a result, we frequently do it. We believe that's the best approach to remain on top of things. Is to continue checking. Actually, you'll finish all of your emails. If you process in batches, you'll save time. You'll have less real time, which means you'll have to wait longer. By doing so, you will be putting time back into your pocket. Is there anything else, Julie, you'd like to make a point about? Just keep in mind that when it comes to time management, I believe it is important to acknowledge that you have the ability to stay as convenient as possible. Concentrate on 1 or 2 problems at a time. Don't feel compelled to redo everything. At the same moment, everything. It isn't possible. Simply make a small to-do list. A list of items that need to be retooled or tooled, then complete them one by one. And you'll see that any part of your time management will improve. Things you take care of, adjust, and tame, or you'll be rewarded. We have 168 hours to work with in a week. You change one thing at a time. Everything is related and everything else rises. As a result, don't try to complete everything at once. You'll notice a tremendous difference if you only fix one problem at a time. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.